and welcome to Ditch Witch Diaries. We are in the plants of Saturn, and Raven has a plant for us. So why don't you just take it away, Raven? Ooh, oh my gosh. That's rad.
I went to I finished my presentation, like all my slides and stuff, and then I stepped away, and then I'd come back and like tweak a little bit, and then I'd step away and I'd look into it a little bit more, and then I'd step away. I don't know why I kept like coming back and then leaving, coming back and then leaving. So this is a little bit of a potentially longer presentation, but that's okay. So our good friend Zebella. So Latin name Atropa belladonna, parts used generally the roots, the leaves, and the fruit. You can use any part of the plant. You can use the seeds if you wanted to. We will talk about some we'll get into it, but you can use any part of the plant. There's a lot of folk names. So belladonna, obviously, deadly nightshade is the second most common. And then we have divinale, dwale, banewort, devil's berries, death cherries, naughty man's cherries, which I like, beautiful death, devil's herb, great morel, dayberry, vockerberrine.
Nice.
Yeah, so shiny. I love them.
I know. Well, I know. Interesting. If you see some shiny berries, don't eat it.
Yeah, don't. So I don't usually talk about the description of the plant, but for some reason I felt drawn to do it this time. So the young plants and the like more mature plants are a little bit different. So on both of them, the lower leaves all are solitary, so they kind of grow by themselves. And then on the upper leaves, they grow in pairs on opposite ends of the stem, and typically one pair, oh my gosh, wrong kind of pear, but one leaf in the pear is typically much larger, and you can kind of see that a little bit here, where you can see like the leaves on opposite sides and how one is bigger. So in the first year, the plants grow to be about 1.5 feet, and their leaves are actually a lot bigger than full-grown belladonna, which have slightly smaller leaves. And when they're young, the leaves start popping out like immediately where the stem touches the soil. So I have belladonna, and it's weird because they grow, it's still a very new plant. I've only had it for I think like 6 months, but maybe a year, but the leaves literally look like they're just coming out of the ground because they are so close to the ground. It doesn't look like they're coming off of the stem. And they grow like a lot, so it looks almost like a little leafy bush in the pot. Nice. And then older plants grow to about 3 to 5 feet, and then the leaves for older mature plants, they don't grow so close to the soil. They grow like 1 foot to 2 feet off of the ground. And then the flowers will appear in June and July. They typically continue through September. Oh, that got cut off a little bit there. But the juice is, I think all it says is that the berry and the juice are both really dark, and the berries from the juice are very sweet. However, as we are going to discuss, belladonna is a baneful plant. Yes, meaning that it is poisonous potentially. But this is one of the problems is because the berries are so sweet. Throughout history, there's been a lot of poisonings in children because children will eat it, it's sweet, and then they just eat a bunch of it. So be careful with that. Generally, it's native to Europe, Southern and Northern Europe, but it's naturalized in the West Coast, so Washington, Oregon, and California. Also going into kind of like the lore, it said that if you walk barefoot on it, it will cause madness.
Oh. That's great.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different lore on the name. So the name belladonna, sometimes it's said that the plant will sometimes form into an enchantress, and she's very dangerous to look upon, and so that's where the name belladonna comes from. Is like this beautiful enchantress who's also very dangerous. Potentially also the name belladonna. I don't know why everything got cut off. That's so weird.
Let's see.
Maybe if I like.
That's weird. That is weird.
Yeah. I don't
very
know
odd.
Let's see. It's already in fit. Maybe if I make it smaller. Let's try.
There you go.
Maybe. Nope. Okay.
No.
Well, The name is also sometimes said to come from Italian women using it. So Bella and Donna both are Italian. And so, what's that? Oh, so weird, Roz. It totally gives
I
like
know, I
feedback.
totally heard that too. It was
It's
so
so
weird.
weird.
There's like a feedback loop. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden
Yeah.
we'll hear something. We're like, wait, you have something to say?
I know. Wait, what?
No,
Okay.
no, nothing.
Okay, so the it said that the Italian women wanted to make their eyes look big and bright, and having dilated pupils was considered a sign of beauty. So they would put eye drops of belladonna in their eye to make their pupils dilate. And then also this is a painting called Titan's Woman with a Mirror, and you can't really see it when I'm full screening it, but here she has a bottle of what's said to be belladonna in her hand, and she's putting it in her eye, which is why she's pointing to her eyes. And it's also said in this painting that the dark mirror is supposed to reflect a belladonna berry. Yes, I like that.
Me too.
So the name belladonna is also said to come from priests who work with or worship Bologna. Bologna? Did I say that? Bologna?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay.
priests who worship Bologna would drink an infusion of it before invoking her. And she was the Roman goddess of war, always depicted with a helmet on, which I love. So then the name Dwale is said to come from the Scandinavian word dole, which means delay or sleep, or it's said to have come from the French devel, meaning grief, in reference to like how lethal and fatal it is.
It's devil.
So then we
like
what?
Well, I like devil.
Evil, yes.
Devil,
Devil,
yeah.
devil.
Devil.
It like connects both words, the devil and evil. It's devil.
Yeah, devil. And so then we have the name Atropa, and so this is said to come after one of the Greek fates. If you're familiar with that, I know you guys are, but there's the three Greek sisters who are the Greek fates, and one of them is Atropos, who is this one right here, and she is said to use her blade to cut through the threads of life whenever a person is like ready to move or is supposed to move to the realm of death. So typically it shows the other two sisters holding the thread and then her slicing through it.
Nice.
Which also obviously ties to the lethality of the plant. So it is very toxic. It's toxic because of atropine, which is an alkaloid. Every part of the plant is poisonous, every part, but the root is the most like poisonous or has the most atropine. The leaves have like a moderate amount, and then the berry has the least amount. So it's said that an adult could eat about 1 to 2 berries without any real poison effects, but after that you're kind of risking it. However, I would never suggest anybody eat any belladonna. Okay.
Yeah.
Just to keep that clear. And then belladonna poisoning typically leads to loss of voice, which is interesting. You completely lose your voice. And then that leads to jerky movements of the hands and the fingers, and huge dilation of the eyes.
Wow.
And then it attacks, I mean, also with the jerky hand movements, but it attacks your central nervous system. Okay, so some history and lore. It's said to belong to the devil, and that the devil tends to the plant all day, not all day, every day, not all day, but every day to his liking for prolonged periods. And it said that the only time that he stops attending to his belladonna is on Walpurgis night, which is named after Saint Walpurgis, English saint of the 8th century. But if we're talking about it in terms of the Sabbat, because we know most Christian and Catholic and those holidays came from some pagan holidays, shall we say. This is Beltane Eve. So Beltane Eve is associated with like witchcraft, or was associated with witchcraft during persecution. So Beltane was considered like the witches' holiday. And so Walpurgis, people who didn't attend like church or do churchly things on Walpurgis were said to be witches, because they want to like do their own thing and celebrate the witches' way.
The witchy way.
The witchy way. I'm so sad that like everything is, should I just leave it like this? Because I want you to be able to see all my pictures. Whatever, we'll leave it like that. So the Roman Empire is, they use belladonna as a biological weapon to poison their enemies, food and water supplies. They also are said to have coated arrowheads with a paste made from belladonna so that when they shot their enemies with it or touched, like stabbed them, they would perish. And then some say that Livia, who's the wife of Emperor Augustus, used belladonna to poison him. And then I added this little picture that says, it's a rearview mirror, and it says the belladonna's in the bag.
Right.
I found that on Etsy, actually.
That's great. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Love it. So then the Greek god Dionysus is, so it's associated with him. We've talked about him quite a few times, I believe, but he's a Greek god of wine and ecstasy and good times. And so people would mix belladonna into a drink that could induce trance when they wanted to worship him. So they would take this drink and then be in like it's like a very ecstasy type of like trance state.
Seems dangerous.
Yes. Yeah. Then we have Odysseus. So Circe poisons Odysseus's men with deadly nightshade and turned them into pigs, more than they already were.
I know, really.
And then we have Norse mythology, which has to do with the Valkyrie. So a group of maidens called who served Odin were sent to, so Odin would send the Valkyries to the battlefields to choose who of the dead soldiers would be brought to Valhalla. And so in this book that I'll tell you in a second, the writer says, on the lower Rhine, its fruit are known as Valkyrberrin or Valkyrie berries, and anyone who ate the berries would fall victim to the Valkyries. And this was in a book written by Perger in 1864, and the book is called Deutsche Plantsagen, which basically says like German plant legends, which I love. I might try to get a translated version of that.
Yeah.
No kidding.
For real.
I know.
Yeah.
Where's that? Exactly.
I looked it up and I was like, oh, that's cool. So historically, it's said that people would make it into like a collar for cattle and put it around the cattle's neck to protect them from the evil eye or from like malevolent spirits. It's also said that you could lift an enchantment from a person by putting a wreath on them, like around their neck or on their head. I usually don't put this warning on mine. Rebecca's really good at that. I am not, but I thought it was important to put this on for belladonna. We are not physicians. We don't suggest use of any of these. Use at your own risk, all that stuff. Belladonna is poisonous, my friends. So
as if you hadn't heard that already. Exactly.
I know, yeah, take it as you will. Yes. I don't need somebody coming to me saying I ate 20 belladonna berries and I am feeling sick now. Okay, well.
I'm gonna die.
Okay, so medicinally,
we told you not to.
We told you. So medicinally, it's a narcotic, a diuretic, a sedative, antispasmodic. Oh, I forgot. I was gonna look that up. I forgot. My Dryatic. Do you know what that is?
Look it up.
I forgot to look that up. Yeah.
I'll look it up. My Dryatic. Okay, a Mydriatic is a drug that dilates the pupil of the eye.
Oh, well, okay. Fancy. Combative, I also don't know what that is. And then diaphoretic. I'm gonna remove that. Angry. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, does it just make you combative? That makes sense.
Maybe.
So it's often used in was often used in eye operations because again, it heavily dilates the pupils. It's an antidote to opium, nerve gas poisoning, and foxglove poisoning. And it has been historically used in a salve for pain, rheumatism, and sciatica.
Yeah, I got a
So
question.
it
I
was,
wonder how,
oh yeah.
I don't know if you know the answer or not, but how much
Yeah.
is it safe, like out externally on you? Like some of those things, if you touch them, like giant hogweed, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Touch.
So here's what like a lot of things have been saying is that it's safe for you to touch and like use topically in small doses. Because obviously it's going to sink into your skin, and if you're using high doses it could be toxic, so it's okay in like small doses. Now I don't know what would constitute a small dose, you'd have to kind of look that up, but it says topically it's okay in small doses unless you have a cut on your skin.
Ooh.
Do not put it on if you have a cut. And so it's like like be mindful of that, right? Like if you cut your arm like shaving or using a knife to like cut veggies or something, or on your finger, and you like put it on there, you're taking a risk that it's going to be pretty internal. So just careful. So it was used in a tincture for scarlet fever, and also it has been historically applied topically for cancer. Again, not physicians. I don't know how well that would work, but potentially. So for a historically for a surgical anesthetic, it's been mixed with hemlock, mandrake, opium, and henbane, which sounds gnarly. I could see how that would be an anesthetic.
Unbelievable. Yeah, I don't know about that.
I know. Maybe like one of
Hemlock is another Saturn herb. Like I was.
Oh, nice.
Yes, so interesting.
Very nice. So belladonna's some of the like chemical compounds in belladonna has been mixed with morphine, and this was known as twilight sleep. And twilight sleep was very expensive, but it was pain management, especially for childbirth. And so before the Victorian age, I guess a lot of people giving birth would be like knocked out, like they would be put to sleep essentially. Mm-hmm. And then Victorian women decided they wanted to stay awake for that nightmare procedure. And so physicians invented this, twilight sleep.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Do you know, are you going to talk about its use in alcohol treatment?
I'm not. Mm-mm.
Okay, so then let me just pipe right in. In Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book, it talks about Bill W. went into treatment centers and he received the Belladonna treatment, which they gave people Belladonna to like withdraw them from alcohol back in the day. So it was used as an alcohol withdrawal treatment.
Interesting.
I know. Yeah. Good times. Good times.
I wonder if there's I haven't looked this up, but I wonder if it would be addictive in quality. So like I know in a lot of drug rehabilitation treatments and things like that, they kind of like swap one for the other, right? Like if you want to stop like smoking weed or something, then you would kind of transition and get like addicted to cigarettes, something that's deemed more acceptable but still addictive. So I wonder if belladonna would have that, or if people would kind of like use it for alcoholism, and then it would kind of just be like,
let's see what it is,
numbing type of agent.
Wild. They used to do wild things like ice baths and shit like that. Mm-hmm. Like they used to do like crazy things.
Yeah.
Let's see, hold on. The belladonna alcohol treatment.
I imagine it's just like because it's such a sedative, it would be easier to deal with like tremors and the cravings, maybe.
What's it got? Let's see. Yeah, there's Bill W.'s 1934 Towns Hospital Belladonna treatment. Yeah, so that's what it was. It was like in Towns Hospital. He had like the last one. Experimentation in 1862 to 1947, like that Charles Barnes Towns, he conducted experimentation with cures for alcoholism and drug addiction. And part of that was use of belladonna. So the belladonna cure, they called it.
Interesting.
It was a deliriant So interesting. That's a deliriant. And included delirium, hallucinations, light sensitivity, confusion, and dry mouth. The second ingredient in the mixture was another deliriant, henbane.
Oh, interesting.
I know, how fun. The third major ingredient was prickly ash, and that added to help with diarrhea and intestinal cramps. The mixture
so basically they're just gonna like make you super high so that you don't even want the alcohol anymore.
Exactly. The mixture was given every hour, day and night for nearly 50 hours.
Dang.
The end of the treatment was marked by the abundance of stools, and then castor oil was given to the patient as a further purgative. The treatment was also described as puke and purge. That's unbelievable. That's fucked up. Like, that's horrible. That is horrible. That sounds horrible. Like, I can't imagine anything worse.
Wow.
No, that is like literally torture.
Exactly. I can't imagine a thing worse than that. I can't believe that anybody would have ever done that. I guess
that guy's whole thing about curing was hallucinogens anyway. So,
well, they're still all about that now, right? But a different kind of hallucinogen, maybe not one that's so poisonous, right?
Yeah. Honestly.
Although I feel poisoned by mushrooms when I take them. I don't feel like it doesn't ever work well on me. So,
well, it is. It's a toxin. It's
exactly.
Everybody's just like, oh, I'm just taking mushrooms. Like, well, you're intoxic. It's a toxin. It's a poison. They're poison. You're mildly poisoning yourself, not to death.
Yeah.
Not deadly poison, but it's a poison.
I have a good experience with mushrooms.
Lots of people do.
They always like when I don't really get like I don't know. So typically when I work with mushrooms, which isn't very often, it's only been like maybe 3 or 4 times, but at least in large enough doses to matter, I always like end up having a conversation with the mushrooms, like the mushroom spirit or the mushrooms, whatever you want to call it. But that's it. Like, it doesn't, a lot of people feel like enlightened about different parts of their life. And like, I don't get that. I just talk to the mushroom.
You just talk with mushrooms. Wow, that sounds good.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
Fun.
I'd do that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hang out with some mushrooms.
Yeah, they're fun. I don't know.
Yeah. Lots of people love them. Yeah. They sicken me.
That's fair. A lot of people feel that way about cannabis too. I feel like some people just do not do well with it, and some people do really well. We all just kind of, bodies do.
There's also that weird trippy cannabis thing that can happen to you, like, and you can get like violently barfy, like with it, like people wind up in the hospital, and they could be smoking for a long time, and then all of a sudden something's triggered, and then it like flips, and then they're like when they smoke it, they're not just sick, they're like they have to go to the hospital to stop the purge.
Yeah,
I know. Fuck. Belladonna.
Yeah. So anyways, with the twilight sleep, this was really common for really popular for a short period of time. But what ended up happening, with the mix of belladonna and morphine, you can only imagine, but the women were essentially like paralyzed for a short amount of time. And so giving a baby when your body feels paralyzed, people said that it was very what was the word that they used? It was like I can't think of the word, but it was like triggering basically. It was really like it kind of screwed them up mentally. Like it did things to their psyche, like giving birth while they were paralyzed and not being able to feel it, and not even like I'm having a baby, but like this massive thing is coming out of my body and I can't feel it. I can't control my breathing with it. I can't do anything. And so people like stopped using it.
Imagine. Well, now they have like other things, and you can't feel it, believe me. You're like, I had a epidural and you can't feel that shit, but I didn't care about that, but your breathing isn't like labored, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, your breathing isn't labored, and you can still move like your neck and stuff.
Of course, you move everything, your arms even. So it's just like from here
it's just
down.
Like part of it. Yeah. Okay, so they are still used. Belladonna's chemical compounds are still used today as like a lot of pain management things. So it helps with GI issues for people with Parkinson's. It helps with asthma, chronic bronchitis, COPD. It's also still a pretty active ingredient in like insomnia medications, sedation, and anti-nausea. Again, though, we're not doctors. I feel like I should keep saying that since this is such a poisonous plant.
It's probably in small amounts, and then it's like chemically, like nobody's going out
removed and isolated.
Yeah, nobody's like that's not what's happening. It's like in the confines within a doctor's.
Exactly. Okay, so magically, it's associated with the planet Saturn, obviously. It's also sometimes associated with Venus because it has like that sweet quality where it kind of draws people in and then murders them, basically. And
come closer, my child.
Yeah, exactly. So the chakra is the crown and the soul star. I think we talked about the soul star in our chakra series, but for people who aren't familiar, so essentially, I mean, go watch that if you want to know more, but basically your crown is associated with like enlightenment and like universal knowledge, but outside of your ego. So it's kind of like a detached information that you're getting. And then with the soul star, it's like your ego paired with this kind of enlightenment. And so it's enlightenment I use loosely, but it's like, you know, information coming in paired with like your ego, basically. So it's associated with both. The element is water. The card is death. The tarot card is death. And then the sign. I couldn't find anything on the signs, but I could see it for all three, because for all three water signs. With Pisces, I could associate it with like the visionary properties of it, since Pisces is very kind of like mystical, and Scorpio with like the deathly like stinger properties, and then with Cancer even with like the protective properties, because we'll talk about magical properties in a second, but it has a lot of protection qualities. So I don't know, would you associate it with one sign specifically?
I enjoy the possibility of all three, but Scorpio seems like probably, if you're gonna have to, you're gonna force me to pick one. I would pick that.
I could definitely see that as well, because Scorpio is kind of like, it's seductive, but also has that tail. So I could see that. Yeah. Exactly.
Stabby.
So in general, it's protective. It's good for consecration, for hexing and cursing. It's known as a witch's herb, baneful herb, visionary herb, and associated with death connection. So it's often used in rituals for the dead. So this could be like necromancy, so like calling spirits and like dead things into like the now, basically. It could also be used in like workings for people who have just passed, any type of like death working. You can add some to a cup or chalice of water and use it to asperge. I don't know how that got put into and spurge, but to asperge your ritual circle. You can burn belladonna when preparing to do battle, and this could be battle, especially like in this day and age of negotiations or going to court. It's saying like anything that's kind of a competition, but not a sport. So not like a fun competition. This is like, I need to win like type of competition, but do not inhale the smoke, because the smoke can also be toxic. So like go burn just like a leaf of it outside.
Oleander too. It's scary that we have so much oleander everywhere, because if there should be a fire and that comes towards you, like that oleander smoke is fucking deadly.
Yeah, gnarly stuff. So as mentioned, you can use it for consecration, especially like ritual-based items. It's also said to have a really good like partnership with onyx. So it's suggested to, if you have like dried belladonna berries or leaves or something, or roots stored, to keep a piece of onyx in there with it. And some of the lore kind of suggests harvesting it at
Beltane.
Yeah, it's all the like voice to text that I do. Is it A-I-N or A-N-E?
A-N-E.
N-E, right?
A-N-E.
There we go. Beltane. But if you're going by like the actual like gardener suggestion, it's better to harvest it at Samhain, which also makes sense with the death aspect.
Yes.
So it's very well known to be an ingredient in witch's flying ointment. I don't think that we've talked about that. I don't know if you've talked about it on your own, but okay, cool. So there's a lot of different ingredients that can be used in witches flying ointments. Typically you'll see like belladonna, datura, opium, monkshood, wolfsbane, and or hemlock mixed in with different things. There's a book that I have, actually I just used this earlier, called The Poisonous Path. I like this one a lot, by Kobe Mitchell, and they have like a really brief section on flying ointment. It's only like a couple of pages. So if you already kind of know generally about flying ointments, then this is a good one because it doesn't really explain too much of the general stuff, but it talks about it in a more, I don't know, non-novice way, I guess. I don't know. But he also gives like a recipe in there. I like that book a lot. So belladonna is known as a gatekeeper plant. And so it's said that it opens the energy centers, like the chakras. It also just kind of generally expands your awareness into the spiritual realm, which is why it's associated with the crown chakra and the soul star chakra. It's also said to like open gateways into other like realms of consciousness. So trance work, connecting into other worlds, going into like your unconscious, if you associate with that, or like your subconscious. It's like just opening portals to other realities, basically. It's also said to connect us to, I always kind of like forget about the term like crooked path. I mean, it's just such a common term, I think, when we were referring to witchcraft and stuff, but I don't really use that term. So when I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put that in because I just kind of forget about it. Yeah, I love it. It's like the darker aspect of the witchcraft. And I always, it's just not in my kind of day-to-day terminology.
There's a metaphysical supply store in Burbank called the Crooked Path.
Yeah, we've been there.
I'm sure we
yeah, we've been there. I actually like it a lot.
That's rad. Is that one? Okay, so remember is that place where there was like a fast food, like vegan place that we ate at? And then there was like that other kind of kitschy little place that had those little bottles of like, okay, so there was like this.
No. That was where she would make you the like concoctions.
No, I know what that is. Which one is that? That's like, is that Pan's Apothecary, or is that
I think it's called Pan's Apothecary or some type of apothecary. I can't remember.
No, it was that other one we went to. Like, I don't.
The Crooked Path is, I believe it's the one with the Hecate thing upstairs.
Oh, that is the one. Yeah. Okay, so that's the one I am thinking of. That room upstairs that we went to. And that dude was trying to like look up things in that rando book for us. And we're like, no, thank you.
We were like, no. Yeah, he was.
What was it about? Like, it was about some sort of thread, devil shoestring. Or like,
oh yeah, I was asking for not devil shoestring, it was false unicorn root.
Yes,
and he's like, well, what's the actual technical term? And I was like, false unicorn root. And he's like, no, and I was like, yes it is.
That's a folk name, let me look it up.
Yeah and then he looked it up in Cunningham's book, and we were like, oh god,
oh goodness,
here we go.
I love that. Here we go.
Here we go.
Busting up the green book.
Love.
Anyways,
good for love and protection.
For love and protection. Yeah. Exactly. Love and protection. Yes. So anyways, wherever I saw this online, they said Crooked Path. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use that. But it's essentially to like connect to like other like witches and magical people, kind of like, and I don't know what the technical term is, but kind of like ancestral like witches, not just of your lineage, but just kind of like of witches that practice similarly to you kind of thing. So it's also like considered the quintessential, like very typical witchcraft like plant. So traditionally it has been used in smoking rituals, or not rituals, smoking blends. And so often they would mix the leaves and the berries with like cannabis, and often some amanita, and then smoke that. I don't know if I would suggest that. That sounds like a potent blend.
That's gnarly. It sounds like nothing I'm being involved with.
Yeah. I'm not even really into like smoking amanitas, to be quite honest. That sounds terrifying.
Exactly. They all sound
yeah. I typically use them when I do use Belladonna. I often will use the berries, and I'll mash the berries and use it as an ink to write on like paper, parchment paper, for when I'm doing spell work. That's kind of how I like to use them. But I didn't really have anything in here. That's the last slide, but I forgot to put stuff for like protection, but obviously very associated with protection because of the like death things, right? Like if you need to use it as protection, it's kind of like anybody who means to do me harm, like bad things are going to happen to them. So we could look at it as protective in that realm.
Nice.
And that's it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Raven. I love that. Yeah. That was a good one. Belladonna.
Yeah. Belladonna.
Thank you so much. And we hope you join us at the next Ditch Witch Diaries.